welcome back to My Spoonie Sisters. Today, we're sitting down with someone who turned a life-altering diagnosis into a life-challenging mission. Meet Asmaa. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2022, and like so many of us, she faced a wave of isolation, fear, and endless Googling that left her feeling overwhelmed and alone. But instead of staying stuck in the chaos, she co-founded Lori Health, a groundbreaking platform and the world's largest library of verified habits, life hacks, and of course, tools shared by real people living with chronic illness. And who better to tell us all about herself than Asmaa herself? Hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, Jen. I love the introduction. Thank you so much. You know what? I felt like I went back in time in my journey, feeling all the emotions, feeling all the vibes. And it's really a pleasure to have this conversation. So thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, it is such my pleasure. Thrilled to dive into all of this with you. But let's start a little bit back with your story. What led up to your MS diagnosis in 2022, and how did that impact your life emotionally and physically?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it feels like forever because so many things have changed since I was diagnosed. I'm sure, many people can relate to that. I never really had any health issues in the past. So I must say I was not so connected with my body, with things that I would feel. I remember very clearly in August 2022, I started feeling tingling and numbness in my legs. I was still able to move and to walk, but I had this like constant tingling sensation. I was like, it's weird, like after sometimes you get a few things like for 10 minutes, half an hour, and then it disappears and you move on. But that stayed over about 2 weeks, the numbness as well. Then it disappeared. Then I had a burning sensation in my legs, my entire legs, like such a weird feeling that I never experienced. I thought I burnt myself with the sauna because I went to the sauna at that stage as I was traveling. So that was it. So tingling, burning sensation, numbness, and then I had vertigo at some point. So this is all August, September, October. So it would be for like 2 weeks, then disappears, another week, and on and off. And I started tracking my symptoms because I was like, this is weird now. Like there's some kind of patterns that I'm observing. And I think when you get something the first time, that feeling, you're like, okay, it's going to disappear. You don't really track it. Comes back, it comes back, it comes back. And then you start trying to look at the patterns. And I started connecting with my body. I would say after a month and a half, I called my GP and I was like, okay, this is what's happening. And my GP is like, the best thing you can do is to see a neurologist. However, if you go through the NHS, which is the public health care system in the UK, because I live in London, if you go through the NHS, it's going to take a few months for you to be able to see a neurologist, like up to 2 to 3 months. And he's like, the best thing you can do is to show up at the A&E, possibly in the morning because it's quiet. There's a change of shift. So just show up at 8 a.m. and you might be able to see a neurologist who is on site. So I was like, okay. I remember feeling like, what's happening? What am I getting into here? Like it felt like a little project that I was not really interested in getting involved. But at the same time, I was feeling things and I was like, no, I need to be responsible. So I went to the A&E the first time. I remember waiting for like 4 hours, which is the average waiting time in London, in a hospital, in a public hospital. I saw a first team of doctors. I was not able to do an MRI or anything. I was just like examined, and then, it can be a nerve pinch. It can be many things. The MS symptoms are a bit weird in that way. It's not obviously MS. It can be many, many other things. So I wasn't able to do an MRI or see a neurologist on that day, but I ended up going back to the A&E about 3 or 4 times until I was able to actually have an MRI done. And then I was seen by the professor of neurology at the hospital who diagnosed me.
Wow, that is a lot and a long time to wait, which I'm pretty sure a lot of listeners are used to experiencing this.
That's actually not so long, to be honest, compared to for UK benchmark. So I was diagnosed in about 4 months in total, and some people get diagnosed in years because their neurologist asked them to really so they need to observe a lot of time between each episodes, between each flare. There needs to be a clear separation between flare 1, flare 2, flare 3, and then you can be diagnosed. So in a way, I think I was lucky to be diagnosed quite fast. For UK,
Yeah, absolutely. Forgive me, I may be wrong, but I think it's the same here in the United States as well. Have you had any experience with health systems in any other countries?
I did actually, because I'm French. I'm sure you can hear from my accent who won't leave even after living abroad for 13 years. But yeah, so when that happened, I was like, okay, I need to have a second opinion in my home country. Somehow also having the conversation in French about my symptoms felt like it was more real in a way. It's weird. Obviously, your mother language is your emotional language. So I went back to Paris privately, did a few MRIs as well, and they confirmed my diagnosis. But because I went the private way in Paris, it took about a week for me to get my diagnosis.
Wow, that's incredible. And through all of this, what was it like? Did you feel a level of isolation, like you couldn't talk to people about what you were going through?
Oh my God, absolutely. Because you know what? You don't know what you're going through yourself. That is the worst thing. Like you yourself, you don't understand what's happening in your body. There's some kind of a separation between you, your mind, your emotions, and what's happening in your body because you've never experienced that. So it's so hard to kind of even explain. You know, it's hard to explain something you can't explain to yourself, right? Then you start panicking and the fear takes over and it's a really complicated road. So you end up basically Googling things. You end up searching for someone who's been through what you're going through online. Like, you know, you just want to kind of self-diagnose, and because at this stage you're not diagnosed, right? So you're really trying to find answers. Worst behavior ever, but we do that because we're afraid. So before the diagnosis, I would try to understand, like, what is this? And then after the diagnosis, you still feel really isolated because, like, I'm very lucky to have a very strong support system. However, I wanted to speak with someone with MS because even with an understanding of my symptoms, even with a label diagnosis, I could read about it on the website of the NHS. I could read about it on the millions of articles and charity websites and medical papers. Like, there's a lot of information out there, let's be honest. And I'm grateful for that level of information. But I wanted like a human to human conversation with someone who's been there, someone who looks like me, who talks like me, who has a career, who's getting married, which was my case when I was diagnosed, but who's 10 years ahead of me in the journey and who's like, don't worry, like, I know you're panicking right now. Like, this is all the siren alerts are on. However, you will be fine. You'll be fine because there's a lot you can do. You'll be fine because medication has advanced, even though that wasn't my choice. I didn't take medication and eventually, but like, I wanted a reassurance, and all I could find on social media, on Facebook groups, was a lot of fear, a lot of anger, non-acceptance. It was very violent what I could see online. And actually that affected my mental health more than the disease itself, I must say.
I happen to agree with you. And even though we're part of different groups, because I have RA and you have MS, it's so similar. And you get all these Facebook groups. And when you're first diagnosed, okay, I want to go check this out. I want to hear from people that are like me and get it. And I'm hoping they'll ease some of what I'm feeling. And then you get into these groups and you hear a lot of complaining, like you said, fear. There's a lot of emotional reactions and a lot of bashing on doctors and medications and woe is me, my life is over. That's not always what we're looking for.
God, no. Absolutely.
I don't know about you, but when I was diagnosed, I was only 32. I wanted comfort. I wanted someone to say, your life is not over. You still have a beautiful life ahead of you.
Oh la la. I mean, I so relate to you, honestly. That's all you exactly. You just want someone who's going to tell you, listen, right now, it feels like hell. It looks like hell. It's very uncertain. It's very messy. However, if you stay hopeful, if you stay positive, you are going to be okay. And I must say, 3 years, like being 3 years down the line now, I will talk about all the things I've done to manage my condition. But the one thing that has made the biggest difference in how I turn out is how I felt mentally, is the belief that I'm going to be okay. And I could not find that online. Like when you've never heard about multiple sclerosis, your algorithm is not showing you the right types of profiles that are positive, hopeful, strong, which they are now, I can see. And like, you're the proof of that. Like, you're the proof of positivity. We can do it. Let's do it together. Community, sharing, love, hope. But when you're first looking for multiple sclerosis on, on Instagram or on Facebook, you don't find positivity. Oh my God. Like, absolutely no. Oof. Yeah, that was the toughest. More than the illness, more than the symptoms. It's like you're looking at those stories and you're like, okay, so that's it. This is my life now. This is what's ahead. Brilliant. Amazing. And you even have started fighting. You're at the beginning of the journey and you already want to give up.
Absolutely. And that's not encouraging. That's not what we need. And it's like you said, emotionally, we need that comfort. We need those words of wisdom of people, even if they're just a few years down the road. I mean, look at what you are today and what you've built. You are that for other people. And we need to spread it like wildfire. I love that we're seeing more of it, but I want it to keep going. We need more people like that.
%. We absolutely need the collective effort to change the narrative around the diagnosis, because at the end of the day, there's 500 million people living with an autoimmune condition in the world. This is not a small group. 500 million people is not a small group. It's 1 person in 10 in the UK. And that's just the diagnosed people. And as we know, the way those conditions manifest, you don't necessarily force a diagnosis. You just live with the stomach pain, you live with the diarrhea, you live with the tingling, and you just get used to the pain. I forced my diagnosis by showing up to the A&E week after week. I took the Eurostar to Paris. I got my diagnosis in France. So like, I really forced it. And I know like many people obviously don't do that, or they cannot do that. So that moment of being diagnosed and you're in a crossroad and you have to choose like which outlook are you going to adopt when you don't have a role model is so isolating, I must say. Like, just to wrap up on your question, I felt like that was the end. I felt like my fiance would leave me. I felt like, I would be on my own. I would lose my job. I had all those nightmares and it's all fantasies, right? But when you see those negative stories and no positive stories, of course you're going to think that.
100%. It's hard not to go there.
Feeling overwhelmed by chronic illness? A little encouragement can go a long way. That's why Cards to Warriors exists, to spread love and support, one heartfelt card at a time. Whether you're sending a pick-me-up to a fellow warrior or receiving a little snail mail sunshine yourself, Cards to Warriors brings connection right to your mailbox. Because no one should fight alone. Want to send or receive some love? Visit cardstowarriors.com today and brighten someone's day.
Yeah, because you start to, in a way, feel what is around you. And if everything around you is negativity, it's hard to stay positive.
Absolutely.
Now, what gap did you notice in the chronic illness space that sparked your idea to begin Lori Help?
Thank you for that question. And it's exactly what I was talking about, my experience in not being able to find positive, action-orientated content and information when I was diagnosed. The fact that I had to become a detective or an investigator to track down people who, created videos on YouTube 12 years ago about how they've been living symptoms free for 10 years. And I would be like, okay, this is the person I want to talk to. How can I talk to this person? Then I would go into the comments. How can I talk to you? Try to find them on Instagram, try to send them an email. Do they have a book?
Respond.
Obviously, people don't respond because they moved on from that video. They're not waiting for your comment 12 years later. And I was like buying every book, listening to every podcast. I'm like, yeah, surely there must be another way. So I actually left my job. I moved to South Africa, which is where my fiance back then used to live. And I've done research for like 3 months. Every single day, that was my job. I would wake up, I would research. Okay. And then I would start seeing patterns between all the information that I would see: vitamin D, meditation, gluten, alcohol, dairy, sugar. And I'm like, okay, there's some kind of thread between what positive actions orientated people are doing. Somehow that was doing the same thing. So there must be something for me there. And then as soon as I started building, as soon as I was able to build my protocol in a way, I just applied it like religiously every single day for 6 months. And I must say that I was in a very privileged position because I was able to leave my job, move to a different country that has a huge impact on your finances, on your career choices. But I was willing to take that risk because you realize, I love the saying, you have 1 million problems until you have a health problem. And then you realize you only have one problem, which is your health, and you have to fix it. So gave up my job. I was working for luxury brands in a very high profile luxury brands in London. I had an amazing job, an amazing like career profile for the future. And I just gave it all up because I'm like, well, if I don't have my health, I might as well, like what's the point of all this? So it took me 6 months of really practicing this new life, this new protocol, building new habits. And we know how difficult that is to get to a point where my MRI actually showed a reduction of my lesions in my brain and in my spinal cord. So my inflammation reduced and I no longer had symptoms.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I remember I was so emotional the day I got that letter and I realized, first, I'm extremely happy and grateful. Second, how unfair is that? How unfair is that I can take time off? I can move to a country where there is sun, where it's slow pace of life. I can take the time to recover, to connect with my body, take care of myself, and do all the research that I did when most people can't. Because if you have kids to feed, how are you going to drop everything and move, across the world? If you have a mortgage to pay, or if your partner is not working, you have to provide for your family. How can you do that? So that's how Laurie started. So with my now husband, who's building Laurie with me, we really want to make it easier for people to, first of all, find peer support. But I mean, actual peer support, positive actions orientated peer support, without having to harass or hack down people on Instagram or on Facebook or on charity forums to find them. It should be easier. There's no reason why peer support is not organized and structured in a way that you can easily find someone who's relevant to you as well. Like, I'm a woman, I'm 37. I want to connect with a woman with MS who was able to have kids with MS, for example, because I'm thinking of starting a family. So there is that social layer that needs to be taken into account in peer support. There's that lifestyle kind of environment as well that needs to be taken. Like, there's a big social element in how we want to connect with someone with our condition. Our condition is not the only connector between us, because we are human beings. We need to be able to have something beyond that to kind of connect and learn from each other. And then making people's stories and the things that they've done to get to their point of being in control of their illness or in remission more accessible. Like, if I'm about to take a specific medication, knowing that, let's say I have 3 other autoimmune conditions, I want to be able to speak to someone who's exactly in my case. And I want them to tell me, how did they compare the medication between all the choices that they had? What the doctor said to them? What made them decide for that medication instead of this other? Like, it's so specific, and we know how specific those choices are, and we always have to make decisions for our health. So that's why we came to really wanting to build that platform for people.
It's all about community and wisdom also, right? Can you explain how it works and why real life hacks from fellow patients can be so powerful?
Yeah. So right now, the way it works, we have an app that gathers in a very structured way the habits and the hacks that worked for people based on their condition and on their symptoms. So it works with the profiles. So if you go in there, you go on Laurie, you're going to find my profile as Asmaa with my illness, all my symptoms, and then the list of every single habit and hack that I've developed to manage my condition. Now, of course, we know that every condition is different and it manifests differently in everybody. However, we know, and there is an increasing number of research, that there are some common thread between the different people. And beyond nutrition or physical activity or mindfulness, there are things like, how do you prep for your GP appointment? How do you prep for neurologist appointment, when you have 15 minutes with one person that basically holds all your dreams and your hopes in life in their hand, and you see them once a year, and you know you're on the clock, you better show up ready for that chat. And how do you prep for that, for example? So how do you talk about your illness to your family to bring them with you in the journey so that they can champion you? They can encourage you. The day you have your MRIs, the day you have your neurologist appointment, we're with you, let's do it. Because people don't talk about it because it's still so mysterious, those illnesses. They are still so unknown. Therefore, people don't dare ask those questions. But you need to educate everyone around you so that they can make you stronger. And that's a full cycle, right? So right now you can find habits and hacks for every person that is in the community. You can decide to try things. You can track your symptoms. And what we are launching as we speak, we launched 3 days ago, is Lori Peers, which is a way for people to connect via video call with someone that we match them with. So that's completely new because we realize again that social layer is very important, right? So if you come to me and you tell me I have ulcerative colitis, I'm a mother of 2 kids, I'm planning on changing medication, I live in Ireland, I know exactly who to connect you with because we've built that community from scratch. We know every single person who is in the community. And that's, if we can fast track that process for you to find your friend, your autoimmune friend that you can have a chat with and check in on, then we're winning.
I'm excited for this. I can't wait. What role has mindset played in your journey? Did your relationship with your body or identity shift after your diagnosis?
I love that. And you know what? I actually never reflected on that. How did it shift between before the diagnosis and after the diagnosis? So mindset, you're right. We did touch upon that before. Mindset is the one thing that kept me standing. It's the only reason why I'm here and having this conversation and building this company. Because I always believed that everything happens for a reason. I'm a very spiritual person. I have a religion that I'm bored with and I practice. And the pillars of my religion are influencing the way I see life. So when I got the diagnosis, as much as I suffered mentally and physically and emotionally, I found a way to be grateful because I knew that everything happens for a reason. And if I'm sick, there's a bigger reason why I'm sick and that I should accept that this is a bigger organization and that something good is going to happen out of this. So I really, really practice that gratefulness behavior and habit every single day, like journaling, meditation, all of that helps. And that really, really helped me. Now, in terms of the change between before and after the diagnosis, I would say that I'm more resilient because you realize again, until you have a health problem, you never had a problem. Like I would stress out for anything. I would stress out for work. I would stress out for being late. I'm late to a dinner, 10 minutes. I'm running like a maniac. Why? So this has changed. You just see life differently once you go through such a traumatic experience. You're less fazed by things, like things happen and you realize, there's a cycle. Like if I've managed to get over my diagnosis and accept that maybe at some point I will not be able to walk or to see, then surely I can be okay if someone is late for dinner or if I'm late for dinner. So more resilient.
I love that. I think I can echo that. I see that shift in so many of us. I think it makes us more not only aware of ourselves, but more compassionate to other people. And I think that's why I wouldn't change a thing, because I love knowing that I'm more compassionate. And I've surrounded myself with people like you that are more compassionate. We need more of that in the world.
Yeah, compassion is a beautiful one as well. Thank you for sharing.
What's one message that you'd share with someone who just received their diagnosis of MS or any kind of chronic illness diagnosis and they're feeling completely lost?
Yeah, so compassion comes to mind because no matter what anyone tells you, you know that it's very tough. It's very tough and it's very lonely. However, what I would say is I understand what you're feeling. I understand that everything feels very, very dark now. Very, very dark. I understand that you don't see a positive outcome from this. And I'm here to say that there are millions of stories of people who are doing so well and who are so grateful for their diagnosis. So grateful. so many people would not change a thing. It's completely unrelated from how bad you are physically. It's completely unrelated. It's all here. It means you decide, basically, how things are going to unfold. I would tell them to join Lori 100%, basically, because this is it. This is the one mission that we have. The one mission that we have is to be the first touch point for every single person who gets through a diagnosis. Just seeing one story, 2 stories, 3 stories, what people do, how they feel, and that's it. Because there's nothing like a story to change behaviors. Stories are the most powerful thing we can ever convey, and that's what you're doing with the podcast.
Thank you. How can people in our community get involved with Lori Health, either to explore tools or to share their own?
So you can find us on lori.health, the website. If you type lori.health on your phone or on your laptop, you can join the early access to get the to get access to the app. Because we're still early in the launch. You can't get it just by looking for it on the website. So you'll get an email as soon as you share your email. You'll get an email back from us with the process to download the app, which is available on the Play Store and on the Apple Store. And in there, like once you download the app, you can create your profile. You can start sharing habits and hacks. And if you don't feel like you're in a place to share habits and hacks, which is totally understandable, you can still discover everyone else's habits and hacks. So there's a search tool in the app where you can Google, or you can search for people. You can search for turmeric because you've heard about turmeric. You can search for tingling if that's what you're going through, and it's very easy to navigate. For Lori peers, there's also a link to get access to the peers that we currently have available in the community. So right now we're covering ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, and multiple sclerosis only, because we are looking at how best can we support the community. And so we want to achieve a few peer sessions before we expand it to more conditions and to more peers. So you can also find Lori peers on the website, and of course on Instagram, we are Lori, which is it's the center of all the updates that concerns Lori.
Perfect. Finally, what gives you hope right now, personally or in the broader chronic illness community?
Love that. There's a few things that come to mind. The first one is when I see the result of big study papers that finally link some bacteria in the gut and multiple sclerosis in people. I'm like, because there's the first one that was shared about a month ago and it was quite groundbreaking. I was celebrating that day because I'm like, finally we're having the conversation around the gut, which is, what we eat and more, and the condition. What does that mean? It means that if you change the way you eat, potentially you can change the way your symptoms show up, which is such a big step, because most often when you say that you're not taking medication or you're managing your condition, a different way, there can be a lot of questioning and fear and woo that comes with that, when in reality, like my dream, and that's one of the reasons why we're gathering data through Lori, is that I want to be able to run the biggest survey that's been done in terms of like day-to-day behaviors of people and be like, look, there's 1 million people who are not eating gluten, who stopped eating gluten, and they are all reporting a decrease of tingling or numbness. Like maybe there is a link in there. So that gives me hope, because it's one step forward in understanding better how those conditions show up and why. And the second is when we receive messages on the Instagram account of people, and I'm sure you can relate to that, of people who are like, I saw your meditation. I had one this morning, actually. I saw your meditation, the meditation that you share in your habits and hacks in your profile. And I've done it for a few weeks and I'm feeling much better. I'm back to therapy. And I just want to say thank you. I mean, that's it. That's it. If I can turn what happened to me into that, what else do I want? And we know the silent majority is there, which means most people will never tell you if that impacted you. But if one person says it, it means there's a lot who were impacted and who are not saying it, which is okay. And that makes me feel so hopeful.
That is such a beacon of hope. I love your example. Well, thank you for taking the time to share your story and everything that you've been working on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure.
It was my pleasure too. Well, thank you. Listeners, until next time, don't forget your spoon. No matter where you are in your chronic illness journey, whether you are newly diagnosed or have been navigating this path for years, know this: you belong here. You are seen, you are heard, and you are never, ever doing this alone. If this episode brought you comfort, clarity, or even just a smile, share it with a fellow warrior who might need it too. And don't forget to follow us on socials for your daily dose of tips, laughs, and spoonie love. Until next time, keep your spoons close and your support system closer.